The sky was the kind of gray that pressed down on your shoulders. Oregon Decembers always felt like that, damp, cold, and unforgiving. I stood at the window of my small house, watching frost slowly take over the edges of the glass. The street was quiet. Not a kid in sight. No carolers. Just the hum of my neighbor's old truck trying to warm up across the road. Inside, my world was a patchwork of Christmas past, garlands I crocheted years ago, hand-painted ornaments from the dollar store I turned into treasures, soft yellow lights I always strung the same way. My place didn't have the sparkle of those big family homes you see in movies, but it had something else: effort. Care. A sense that Christmas still meant something. I was halfway through hanging the last snowflake on the tree when my phone buzzed. Just once. I wiped my hands on my sweater and picked it up. It was a message from Eden. I frowned. She rarely texted unless it was for birthdays or obligatory reminders. You are not invited to Christmas this year. That was it. 10 words. No explanation. No punctuation. Just flat and final, like a door slamming in the wind. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe she meant to send it to someone else. Or maybe it was a joke. My thumb hovered over the screen. I read it again. And again. It wasn't a joke. And it sure as hell wasn't a mistake. I stared at it so long the screen went dark. Tapped it back on. Read it once more. Every Christmas for the past 10 years, I've been the one who made it happen. The food. The decorations. The stupid games. The hot chocolate station with the mini marshmallows because Eden's kids liked them that way. Me. And now I wasn't invited. The heat drained from my chest. Like someone had turned the thermostat down and forgot to tell me. I sat on the couch, phone still in hand, as the memories came flooding back. Eden accepting compliments for meals I cooked. Her casually calling me too intense in front of others when I spoke up. That time the turkey burned because she forgot to check it, and somehow it was my fault for not reminding her. I used to laugh it off. Keep the peace. Family, right? But now, sitting there, something twisted in my gut. A low, burning ache that didn't feel like sadness, it felt like recognition. A part of me had seen this coming for years, hadn't it? Sometimes, the people you'd take a bullet for are the ones holding the gun. I'd read that on a bookmark in the library once. Thought it was dramatic. Now it felt like prophecy. I didn't cry. That surprised me. Instead, I typed back. Then you won't. Sent. Simple. Final. For the first time in a long time, I didn't ask for clarification. I didn't try to fix it. I stood up, walked to the tree, and started taking down the ornaments. One by one. The snowflake. The angel. The tiny knitted head I made when I was still married. The silence in the room wasn't empty, it was clean. Like something had been stripped away, leaving space. If I wasn't family to them, maybe I needed to stop pretending I was. I whispered that to myself as I unplugged the lights. The room dimmed. Shadows danced across the floor. I deleted the family group chat from my phone. I didn't flinch. I sat back on the couch, pulled the blanket over my lap, and watched the frost grow on the window again. I could see my own breath. It felt good to know I was still here, still breathing, still me. Later, out of habit, I opened Facebook. Just to scroll to distract myself. Eden had posted a photo. Her house. Decorated top to bottom. The caption read, "Excited to celebrate with real family this year." That word, real, hit harder than the message had. It wasn't just exclusion. It was erasure. Like I never mattered. I stared at it for a long time. Not angry. Just numb. They really want me gone. The words came out without me meaning to say them. Quiet. Final. But I wasn't planning to disappear quietly. The morning after the message felt like waking up in an unfamiliar house, even though I hadn't moved an inch. The light filtering through the blinds was dull, heavy. The kind that makes you want to pull the covers back over your head and pretend the day never started. But I didn't. I got up because I always do. There were no missed calls. No new texts. Just the quiet tick of the wall clock and the hum of the heater kicking in. The coffee pot beeped like usual, but I didn't touch it. Instead, I just sat at the edge of the couch, blanket still wrapped around my shoulders, watching the steam drift and disappear. Everything felt suspended. Paused. Like even the house knew something had shifted. It was strange how silence, something so passive, could carry the weight of a slap. No arguments. No screaming. Just that message. Just absence. And somehow, that hurt worse. I found myself back on Facebook. I knew I shouldn't look, but I did. Eden had posted more. Her living room was lit up like something out of a Hallmark ad. The tree glowed, people laughed, food covered every inch of the table. The comments were flooding in. So glad you're hosting again. Finally, the way Christmas should be. A few had tagged other family members, like they were proud to be part of the new club. Then I saw the picture. Everyone gathered around the table. Every chair filled. Except one, the one I used to sit in. It was gone. Not empty, gone. Below it, the caption read, "Finally, a peaceful Christmas." I closed the app. My ears were ringing. This wasn't just being left out. This was being erased. Deleted. And everyone saw it. Knew it. No one questioned it. The embarrassment curled hot in my stomach. I wasn't just excluded, I was humiliated. Quietly. Publicly. I tried to tell myself maybe I had done something wrong last year. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I misunderstood something. But that was the dance I always did, twisting myself into shapes to make other people comfortable. Mom used to say, family isn't supposed to make you feel small. But I'd spent decades shrinking. When did standing up for myself start being labeled as dramatic? When did kindness turn into weakness? I opened a blank message window to Eden. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I typed. Then deleted. Typed again. Deleted again. Eventually, I just closed the screen. I needed air. I pulled on a coat, scarf, boots. The streets downtown were wet, glistening with leftover rain. Flurries were starting to fall, soft and quiet. I didn't have a destination, just kept walking, hands buried deep in my pockets. "Venna?" a voice called. I turned. Mr. Caldwell, my neighbor 2 blocks over. Retired. His wife passed last winter. He smiled, slow and kind. "Out for a thinking walk?" "Something like that," I said. He was holding 2 grocery bags. I offered to help. We walked together in silence for a while. "Christmas used to be loud around here," he said suddenly. "Now it's just quiet." I nodded. "You know," He went on, the hardest part isn't being alone. It's realizing who left you there. That stopped me cold. He didn't say it to be wise. He just said it. But it echoed in my ribs. When we got to his porch, I handed him the bags. He thanked me, then added, "You're good company, Venna. Always have been." I nodded again, unsure if I could speak without cracking. On the walk back, something started to settle. Not peace, something firmer. Something that felt like the start of a line being drawn. That night, I stood in front of the fireplace, looking at the last piece of Christmas still hanging, an old family photo in a silver frame. All of us. Smiling. Pretending. I took it down. Didn't throw it away. Just turned it face down. "Not this year," I whispered. I went to the kitchen, opened my laptop. Typed into the search bar, "Mountain Cabins for Rent, Oregon, December." I'd never traveled alone for the holidays. Never even thought about it. But this year, maybe I needed to be somewhere no one expected me to be. Somewhere I could hear myself think. I found a listing, small, rustic, surrounded by pine trees. Secluded. I clicked book now. And as I confirmed the payment, another tab blinked to life. New email. Subject line, "Family Legal Affairs, Urgent." I stared at it. Didn't open it. Not yet. The email arrived just after supper, my kitchen clock showing 7:12 p.m., the lights low, the house quiet. I was still unpacking boxes of ornaments I had taken down the night before, dusting the shelf where the framed photo used to hang. My thumb hovered over the ping, the subject line bold, "Family Legal Affairs, Urgent." I closed the laptop lid. Walked to the window. Rain had returned, thin and soft. I braced myself and opened it. My mother's law firm. The same firm she trusted. I opened the message. Somewhere in the ding of my phone a memory echoed, her telling me, "Fairness isn't about money, it's about respect." I read the sentences, eyes blazing hot, heart slowing. The document stated that changes were made after my mother's funeral, after I said my goodbyes. My name removed. Someone else given priority. Without my signature. Without even a courtesy call. My hands shook. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. My name, Delara Bracknell, vanished from a shared inheritance listing. And right beside it, in crisp black and white, my sister Eden's signature. Flashback, the hospital room. My mother in a pale gown, oxygen mask on. Family crowded in. Velda kneeling beside her. Mom whispering something I didn't hear. The promise made, everything stays in the family. I was there, but not present. Eden had said, "You should rest, Delara. We'll take it from here." I believed her then. I believed comfort. I printed the document. Sat at the dining table, scattered papers, blue ink, legalese. I traced the signature slowly, the line turning into a slash across my years of loyalty. The lights dimmed low, the rain tapping the window beside me. I realized I had been given a role, to be the quiet one. The background player. And now that role was up for rewriting. I called the law firm. I asked for Nora. She sounded nervous. She said, "Ms. Bracknell, Mrs. Creed said she had your verbal consent." The word recording slipped out. My skin chilled. A recording of me without my knowledge. Something used like a weapon. I sat back. Thoughts racing. Emotional tide shifting. Confusion became shock, which turned into something steadier, anger. Not wild rage, but the calm verification of truth. I brewed tea. Took slow sips. Wrote in my journal, they call it family, but they mean obedience. No longer a victim waiting to be noticed. I was collecting evidence. Emails, receipts, voicemails. I made a folder on my laptop, my case file. I didn't know how far it would go. But I knew I wasn't chasing peace anymore, I was going to ask for justice. Mr. Caldwell knocked at the door around 9. I answered, cookies in hand. He smiled and said quietly, either someone died again, or you're planning a revolution. I let myself smile back. I didn't tell him the details. He leaned on his cane and said, my brother forged his father's name. Greed doesn't change people, it reveals them. No echo of pity. Just a nod and understanding. I realized I wasn't alone in this. Later that night I checked my voicemail while lying on the couch under a single lamp. One of the old messages listed. I replayed it. Eden's voice, if you just kept quiet, things would have been easier. Clear. Calm. Chilling. This was never about me. It was about her image. I held the phone tightly, my fingers trembling. I whispered out loud, so it was you. The house stayed still. The rain outside softened even more. No more silence. No more waiting. I woke up before the sun. No alarm. No noise. Just the kind of stillness that doesn't ask for permission, it demands attention. My breath fogged the bedroom window as I stood there, holding my mug, the world outside still draped in that blue-gray Oregon light. Something had shifted. I wasn't dreading the day. I was waiting for it to begin. You don't get to decide when someone finds their voice, you just get to decide when you use yours. I'd read that quote once, scribbled it on the back of a grocery list. Now, I found myself whispering it like a vow. I opened my laptop. Created a new folder, My Evidence. Inside it, I saved PDFs of the will. Notes from my phone. Screenshots of family comments. I wasn't documenting this for drama. I was documenting it for defense. I wrote out a checklist, small, practical. Call attorney. Record calls. Find photos of last family events, show who was and wasn't there. Print everything twice. Then I stood in front of the mirror. Practiced saying it aloud. You don't own me. I'm not backing down. My voice cracked at first. Then it didn't. Around noon, I got the email. Subject, family dinner, this Saturday. From Velda. No frills. Just, hope you'll join us. Just us this year. No apology. No explanation. Just a clean little trap dressed up as tradition. I clicked yes. Not because I wanted to go. Because I needed to. Saturday came. I parked 2 blocks away. Needed the walk. Needed the air. Velda's house looked like a Pottery Barn ad, garlands on the railing, warm light spilling out like everything inside was pure. But I knew better. I stepped inside and let the door close behind me. She greeted me like we'd talked yesterday. Kiss on the cheek. You look great. She hadn't said that in years. Dinner was already plated. She stood at the head of the table, like a politician addressing donors. Thank you all for coming, family means everything. I sat in silence, watching the parade of toasts. Not once did my name come up. Not once did someone say Delara made that. The chair next to me stayed empty. Then Velda held up her glass. I know some of you wondered why Delara wasn't with us these past years. It's because she chose her path, and we supported that. My fork paused. My hands clenched under the table. That wasn't support. That was strategy. That was rewriting the narrative while I was too stunned to speak. I opened the Notes app on my phone. Typed it down. They don't erase you in one blow, they do it in polite phrases. After dessert, I placed my napkin down. Stood. If I was invisible to you, I was always visible to me. My voice didn't shake. It sliced. The table froze. Velda blinked, smile still glued on. I held up my phone, screen turned toward her. Here's why you didn't invite me, and here's why you won't control me anymore. The file name said it all, altered_will_signed_by_eden.pdf. The room tensed. Utensils clicked on plates. No one spoke. I'll be spending Christmas on my own terms this year, I said. And I'll leave this chair empty, just like you did for me. I walked out. Didn't wait for applause. Didn't want it. That night, back in my apartment, I sat with just the lamp on. The house felt honest for the first time in months. At 1:04 a.m., my phone lit up, family group chat. I let it ring. I didn't touch it. Stared at the screen and said, this isn't just about Christmas. It's about being seen. And this time, I meant what I said. Then you won't. I sat in the dim light of my apartment, storm clouds pressing against the window like a warning. The rain tapped a steady rhythm, soft, insistent. My dinner plate lay cleared, but untouched for hours. I'd said what needed saying at the family table. I opened my journal instead, fingers hovering over empty lines. Silence used to feel safe. Tonight it felt like a cage. I pulled the voicemail from Eden up on my phone. Her voice, nearly calm, if you just kept quiet, things would have been easier. I paused the recording. I watched the rain blur the streetlights. And realized this was more than omission. It was orchestration. I plugged in the external drive I hadn't touched in months. While the coffee cooled, I located a folder named Mom's Audio. My hand hesitated. I hadn't listened because I feared what I'd hear. I clicked play. A hushed conversation from a hospital room, my mother's voice soft, "Don't let Eden rewrite our story. You matter just as much, Delara." My chest tightened. A wave of something, grief, validation, shock, rolled through me. I pressed stop and leaned back. My mother. In her last weeks. Reminding me I was visible. That I counted. Years of feeling small crashed into that moment. I sat quietly. Then I made a decision, that voice would become my anchor. The next scene drifted back a year in time. I was standing in the hallway of Mom's house, suitcase packed, grief raw. Eden walked up and said softly, "You were never really here, not like the rest of us." I believed her. I let her words cut. I left without fight. Now I replayed that memory. I saw the knife in her tone. In public she praised how I chose to step back, in private she whispered I was the problem. I scanned old emails, found her line, "Delara chose distance." That phrase opened a door I couldn't close. I realized the betrayal wasn't sudden. It was built. Quietly. Over years. I felt anger rise, cool, focused. Not a shout. A shift. I opened my old journals, entries about worrying I wasn't enough, wondering if I was too emotional, too demanding. I copied passages into a new document I named Emotional Archive. I logged dates, names, events every time I felt erased. I created a folder, organized files, labeled them Exclusion, December 2018, Dinner Comment, July 2019, Will Alteration, December 2024. My hands moved with purpose. I no longer forced myself to forget. I chose to record. Recording became resistance. The fear of speaking had once silenced me. Now I spoke through files, through evidence, through the truth I collected. That evening I printed a transcript of the recording. Framed it simply, Mom's words in black letters, "You matter just as much." I placed it in my suitcase, ready for my December 23rd departure. I set a calendar reminder, play recording, Christmas Day. My little ritual began. In that moment I whispered, "This time I won't let anyone silence what she said." I felt something like light break through storm clouds. I knew the fight wasn't about them anymore. It was about the space I reclaimed. The reminder for myself. When I closed the door, I found a plain envelope on the welcome mat. No return address. Inside, a screenshot of an old comment thread under my name, Accusations, Betrayal, posted by someone else as if I wrote them. I stared at it. I didn't jump. I didn't cry. I closed the envelope and slid it onto the table. I was being written into the story they wanted me to tell. I decided I'd write the version I chose. I reached the cabin just as the last light in the sky faded. The road up the mountain curled like a ribbon, each turn revealing taller pines, deeper shadows, and snowflakes falling quiet and heavy. My bag hit the porch boards with a soft thud. I flicked on the porch light and hung the oak leaf napkin I had folded months ago, an anchor to something I believed in. I stepped inside, closed the door behind me, and exhaled. The air inside smelled of wood and cold. I realized I was alone by choice. Not out of defeat, but because I decided what freedom meant. After I unpacked, I booted up the laptop. I opened the folder labeled Final Evidence. Documents, voicemails, scanned wills, all lined up like soldiers. I dragged in the latest printout, a lien notice on the Bracknell estate. My jaw clenched. This wasn't just exclusion. It was theft. From inside my own family. My sister wasn't just polite when she ignored me, she erased me. I felt the cold punch of shock. Then a turn in my gut, resolve. I walked to the window and looked at the snow piling on the railing. I said out loud, "This time I don't fold." My phone buzzed with notifications. The family group chat flooded with screenshots, old statements pinned as proof I'd exploited them. My name? Right there in bold, proof she's been freeloading all along. Comments from relatives I trusted, side conversations I never knew they had. Fear edged in, this was worse than silence or erasure. This was manipulation. I tapped back, "I see your version. I also keep records." The room tilted, fear turning into something fierce. I wasn't just threatened. I was under assault. And I chose to stand. Outside, the moon was pale. I walked to the porch, boots crunching in the snow. The door stood closed, just like the ones I'd been barred from. I pressed the laptop open. I wrote the email at midnight, subject, "Time for transparency." I attached Mom's voice recording, the altered will, the group chat screenshot. I clicked send. The snow drifted softly. In that moment I felt my heart's beat strong. I whispered, "Courage isn't loud. It's just doing what you know is right." At 1:04 a.m., the quiet broke. My phone lit up, a message from Velda, "We can talk." The words hovered as I stared at them. Negotiation? Ambush? I didn't reply. I didn't park myself in fear. I placed my phone face down, walked inside, closed the door. The cabin felt like home now, not the home I was born into, but the one I chose to build. I sat on the couch, listened to the snow against the window, and watched the screen fade. My mind didn't race. My decision was made. This wasn't a retreat. It was a strike. I leaned back and let the silence speak for me. I was no longer waiting for them to invite me. I had already claimed the space I deserved. Understood. Chapter 6 is completed. Next up will be Chapter 7, The Exposure, unless you say otherwise. Snow drifted quietly against the cabin windows, soft and relentless. I sat in my living room, laptop open. A live feed ticker promised the moment of truth, soon the court filing would go public. I stared at the folder labeled Final Evidence. Voicemails. Scanned wills. Screenshots. Each file a marker of what I refused to forget. Outside, the fireplace crackled. Inside, I braced for what I had long prepared for. The oak leaf napkin hung on the wall opposite me, its folded shape a quiet witness to every dinner where I was absent. I adjusted my phone settings, alerts for the legal live stream, for news outlets, for the family group chat. Silence lingered before the storm. I took a deep breath and reminded myself, the truth doesn't wait for permission. It demands presence. I clicked refresh. The courtroom feed began. The judge addressed the camera with an air of seriousness. The evidence submitted indicates a forged signature and a lien on the Bracknell estate. My chest tightened. The image shifted, and there was Velda, her posture rigid, her smile stained with surprise. Comments exploded online. Bracknell family scandal, about time she spoke up. I saw the comment pop up. She deserved this. Watching them unravel in real time, I felt rage rise like fire in icy water. But I sat still. I watched. No cheering. No dancing. Just quiet. Sweet justice. I thought of every time I was told to be grateful or sit down. Today the table had turned. I leaned forward. They were watching. So I kept watching back. The broadcast ended. Overnight the story lit up news feeds and talk shows. Dawn broke with crisp cold air as I packed my gear and drove down the mountain. I stopped at a lookout point, pines hanging heavy with snow. I thought, one leg of truth is stronger than two legs of lies. In the car I replayed every year of silence that led to this moment. I met Mr. Caldwell and Rowan Lee at a small cafe. They handed witness statements. We moved with purpose. I realized I wasn't hiding my story anymore, I was walking it out. The car's heater hummed as I drove, but the warmth was different, it was from resolve, not fear. Back home, I pulled one ornament from the box, a wooden oak leaf. I placed it alone on the small tree. I recorded a video blog. I wasn't invited, then you won't be part of what I'm building. I posted it and watched the view count rise. Comments poured in, you gave me hope. Thank you for showing me my worth. I texted Velda, the chair is still empty. The leaf is still mine. I felt triumph, not about beating someone, but about discovering myself. I didn't need vindication. I needed validation. I got it. The evening settled in. I gazed out at the snow drifting and thought, the fight isn't over, but I changed the rules. Then my phone dinged email. Subject, settlement offer received. My heartbeat slowed. I stared at the line, not giddy, not relieved, just ready. The chair I once occupied at Christmas would never represent me again. A new door had opened. I stood at its threshold. Driving back into my old neighborhood, I noticed how the houses had gotten smaller. Or maybe I had just gotten larger, in every way that counted. I passed the cracked sidewalks I used to ride my bike on, the hedges that once towered over me. Everything felt familiar and distant at the same time, like an old photograph you don't quite recognize until you realize you're in it. I parked across the street from the community church. The stained glass window glowed faint blue, just like it used to during those family Christmas services. I didn't feel bitter. I wasn't angry. I was steady. I stepped inside. Pastor Eddings was there. He didn't say much. Just listened. That was enough. Leaving the church, I walked the block in slow steps. No rush. No flinching. Just reclaiming. Every footfall pressed into old ground with new weight. I whispered, mostly to myself, forgiveness isn't letting them off the hook. It's taking yourself off it. A few days later, I received an email from a local women's group. They asked if I'd speak at their monthly circle, a session focused on family estrangement. I stared at the screen for a while. I didn't know if I belonged. Was I too angry? Too proud? Too raw? Still, I said yes. I titled the talk, "The Power of Saying Then You Won't, Choosing Yourself Without Shame." Standing in front of that group, I told them about the Christmas text. About the silence. About the oak leaf. Not as wounds. As weathered chapters. Women came up afterward. Hugged me. Cried. Shared their own left-out stories. I didn't feel exposed, I felt understood. They handed me a tote bag full of cookies, crocheted bookmarks, handwritten notes. On the drive home, I cried. Not out of sadness. Out of surprise, this was the kind of closure I didn't think I needed. Later that week, I sat down with a stack of old family photos. I didn't shred them. I didn't frame them. I organized them. I looked each face in the eye. Not to forget, but to see clearly. I sent Velda a message. Just one. I'm no longer in the role you cast me in. Then I pulled out an old Christmas card. The one with everyone's names and the tagline, "Family is forever." I lit a match and watched it burn slow and clean. That wasn't my truth anymore. I placed a new photo on the mantle. It was me. Standing outside the courthouse. Not beaming. Just steady. That was enough. Rowan Lee and I met for coffee a week later. She gave me updates on the podcast series. You gave people language for something they were ashamed to name, she said. I agreed to help co-produce a new project, Silent Chairs, Women Who Walked Away. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was legacy. I thought of the quote again, "We don't heal by going back to what hurt. We heal by building something new from the ashes." The next scene in my life began quietly. A new cabin. A blank notebook. A fresh page. No longer waiting for a call. No longer asking for a seat. Just writing. Just being. Right as the sun dipped, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. An email. Subject: Your story saved my daughter's life. Thank you. I placed a hand over my heart. And I knew this was never just about Christmas.